We're talking about graduates and those that leave varsity, they've graduated and they start going into the workplace, but it becomes a problem when they do not know how to handle their own financial needs. So financial literacy, and of course here on the line, here to help us out with the real value of financial literacy when entering the workforce, it is Andiswa. Good afternoon to you, Andiswa.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm well, thanks, and how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And I know this is your line of work when we're talking about financial literacy. Let's get straight into it. What does it mean, the real value of financial literacy when entering the workforce?
I think what it means is that knowledge is power. I think that's the main takeaway from it. And coming from a position of being a student and having been immersed yourself for about 3 or 4 years, depending on how long your degree was, in just studying and trying to pass and get ahead and get that degree or diploma or whichever qualification, that's been the main focus so far. And I think that perhaps you haven't been exposed as much as you should have on the post implications of then being employed, what that means, what are some of the things that you need to consider. And I think that knowledge that lies in financial literacy and how to use that money that you then earn is really what we're trying to get across. The message is that know what money is, know how to use it, and know what steps you need to take in order to create as much value out of it as possible is the message that we're trying to bring across in making sure that people are knowledgeable in how to use this income that they are then exposed to post qualifying and getting a job.
Now, you mentioned that not being exposed to financial literacy and all of that, obviously that becomes an issue. So in your field, what are the biggest challenges that you have encountered or seen with the young people? What do you think they have faced where challenges where you feel that they need to actually overcome this or learn this in order to apply it in life?
Many challenges. I could go on and on, but I think the biggest is just the shifted mindset that is required. You are in varsity and you have all these dreams and aspirations of things that you want to do and things that you perhaps are either a responsibility or a dream. So first in the responsibility aspect is things that in some instances or other have already been set out for you in terms of when you graduate, this is what we expect from you. This is what you have to do at home. These are the things that we are actually looking forward to in seeing you make it. And that's the responsibility aspect. And then the other challenge is then the things that you've aspired to do and achieve in your own capacity when you get that job. And just a shift in mindset and actually realizing that, you know what, income is constrained. You know, it's not something that you can easily expand. And you're faced now with this limited resource called your salary and this endless amount of responsibilities as well as aspirations that you want to achieve. And then trying to balance the two and the shift in mindset and understanding that these are my constraints. These are the things that I want to achieve. How do I then form a relationship between the two? That requires you now thinking of, let me unpack what I have, and then let me prioritize and unpack what I need to do from a responsibility and aspirations perspective. And then how do I then map out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it, the time I have to actually achieve what I want to achieve. I think that shift in mindset has really been the biggest challenge. And then another one that I can highlight is, of course, the temptation of debt and credit cards and clothing accounts, which are also around you in trying to say, look, these are the different avenues that you can use to spend your money. This is how you can look good. And these are the things that you can put your money into. And if you're not very knowledgeable in exactly how credit works or how clothing account works or anything else, in fact, that is money related, you can find yourself getting yourself into a lot of unexpected sort of deciding on the onset that you then have to deal with in terms of consequences afterwards. So I'd say that's some of the challenges. It's the one, forming the relationship and trying to create a map for yourself, and also navigating through the pressures that are there surrounding you as you unpack this.
Yeah, you mentioned debt, temptation, but others, when they finish with school, university, college, whatever the case may be, they already walk into debt when they start working because they have student loans and other things that they need to pay off and all of that. What advice would you give to someone that's in that kind of situation as to how to spend wisely and also to make sure that they cover their debts?
I think that the most important thing is to note when it comes to finances is that every situation is different. So the first thing to steer clear of is following a blanket approach or generalizing your situation and sort of trying to find what would work for a person like this. I think it's very important that you isolate yourself and your situation, and you sort of just lay them out in terms of what do I prioritize, why do I not prioritize. We really encourage, especially in my line of work, open conversations about finances, which are very important and can be taken lightly, but it's important that you open up the conversation and then you list the things that you need to do, debt being one of them. You say that you walk out of varsity and you have all this amount of debt, until you actually open up the conversation, either with yourself or with an expert in the field who actually has the knowledge to assist you, and just break it down. So what is the most important debt in terms of priority and interest rate, and what is the least? And just note them down in terms of order of priority and tackle them one by one. There's different approaches in terms of how to tackle that. And I think if you actually consult with an expert, or you consult with someone who's knowledgeable in that field, they can assist you in some of the different factors that you need to consider in approaching that. But I think the most important thing is opening up the conversation and literally listing them down in order of priority and what needs to be taken care of first. That's the advice that I would give. And also just bear in mind that once you visualize that, and it's actually part of a plan, it's only then that you can start putting in the necessary action items in tackling it. So very important to be aware, very important to plan and to really map out what it is that you are facing and then the magnitude of it.
Yeah. In closing, how does one structure their spending? Maybe perhaps in answering that, you can give us tips as to how to help us establish really good money habits as well as build a solid foundation for our future financial success.
I think the first thing is the golden rule that we usually go by, is that always make sure that you spend less than you earn. It's an understated rule, but golden rule, always make sure that before you do anything, this is how much you earn, and whenever you're spending, it always needs to be less. And that's how you avoid going overboard.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is to write down things. If you want a good financial future, financial health is an important part, and that is checking yourself with where you currently stand and where you want to be, and really realistically so naming the things that you want to achieve, writing them down, and then formulating sort of a plan of how am I going to get there is very important. And this is why we encourage open conversations. We encourage asking the right questions, or even learning to ask better questions, because it's so important in this journey to sort of know where you stand and where you want to go. So spend less. Always inquire and ask yourself before getting into any financial decision, what are the implications? What does this mean for me? What does it not mean for me? And what are the pros and cons? Just try to really engage with your finances and ask all the necessary questions before you commit to anything.
Yeah. Andiswa, thank you so much for your time.